Good evening. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and this evening will be the deck analysis and buying guide for the Vision deck that has been spotlighted in the last 3 videos. If you haven't seen the gameplay videos, this is an S plus tier deck, which may come as a surprise to anyone who's not familiar with the Bring It strategy. Bring It allows us to draw 1 card for each minion engaged with you, and Vision's nemesis, Ultron, brings in drones every round, which cannot damage Vision while he's intangible, so the strategy is to stay in intangible all the time. Just tread water until Shadows of the Past comes out and the Ultron nemesis comes out, and then as the board fills up with minions who can't damage Vision as long as he stays in intangible form, we can then draw 10 or 11 or 12 cards with Bring It, and then OTK the boss through stage 3 using Solar Beam, Super Dense Strike, and or cards like Hercules, which deploy for free when you have 6 minions on the table. The important cards to this one, well, there's really no point to playing this deck at all without Bring It. Bring It comes to us from the Drax Hero Pack. It is absolutely essential to the deck. If you play Vision without Bring It, you should expect a middling tier hero who may struggle to even take on a basic challenge like Rhino on Heroic 1. So definitely you want Bring It if you want to play Vision at a high difficulty. Of the other cards that are included in the deck, Endurance is a nice card from the Miss Marvel Hero Pack, adds +3 to health. I wouldn't call it essential. You could swap in another ally, even assess the situation potentially. From the Thor Hero Pack, Hercules. Hercules is the strongest ally in the deck, with the possible exception of Nick Fury, because Hercules gets -1 cost for every minion on the table, and the whole idea is that we want a lot of minions on the table. So toward the end of the game, Hercules ends up deploying for free. From the Rise of the Red Skull expansion box, Spider-Girl, not essential. Wasp, not essential. Blade, Marvel Boy, not essential. Angela, Thor, Throg, not essential. The point of these cards is to be low-cost allies. You could swap in any low-cost ally, meaning costs 1 or 2, from the basic or aggression aspects and do just fine. None of those allies are essential. Hercules is very strong, but none of the others are essential to the deck's functioning. Sunfire is very, very good and allows for an additional answer to some of the nasty villain attachments. So Hercules and Sunfire, very, very strong, and the deck is going to take a hit in power without them. Sunfire coming to us from the Wolverine Hero Pack. But the other allies are, well, they can be swapped out with any 1 or 2 cost ally. Currently, July 9th, 2023, the allies that are included are the best available low-cost allies. That will certainly change as more cards are released. There will be more options, and some of these allies may get swapped out for better allies because none of them are that powerful. Thor's pretty good. Throg is decent in the deck. Some of the other allies, though, will very likely get swapped out in this deck as other better cheap allies become available. Then we also have the card Reboot, but that comes to us from the Vision Hero Pack, and so if you're playing Vision, you have that anyway. That's a very strong card in this deck, along with First Aid coming from the core set. This is the second S Plus tier deck we have debuted. S Plus, my definition for S Plus means a deck that is capable of taking on any scenario in the game on expert difficulty without making any adjustments to the deck. We have spotlighted, I think, 10 or 11 or 12 heroes so far, and I have played off video many more than that, which did not make the cut for a hero spotlight because they couldn't get past a basic challenge like Rhino on Heroic 1. So far, only 2 heroes have been S+, and I'm not expecting really any more than 5 or so, and frankly, I'd be happy to get to 5. The challenge, the big 3 villains, Magneto, Venom Goblin and Ronan on Expert, are so ferocious that hardly any heroes can defeat all 3 of them. And I'm not happy about that. I would personally prefer if maybe 20 to 25% of the heroes in the game could complete those challenges. If 20 to 25% of the heroes in the game were capable of taking on all the content, I'd be happier. And we could, as a community, constantly be finding new strategies that would push difficulties higher and higher, start taking down some scenarios on Heroic 2 or 3 in solo play. As it is, Rhino can be taken down on Heroic 2 and maybe something like Tower Defense, Green Goblin, Risky Business, or Wrecking Crew, but other than that, we're going to be hard pressed to get anything else down on Heroic 2 or 3. We're going to be capped out by the extreme difficulty of the game. That is unfortunate. I would much prefer if there were more viable heroes for taking on all the content in true solo, and I hope to find more, or I hope that more are released, or I hope that some older heroes get better with the release of new cards. But as of right now, I'm not really expecting more than, 5 or so heroes to be able to take on all the content in the game. So Vision is joining an elite list. Now you shouldn't expect a high win rate with Vision because you've basically got to tread water until Shadows of the Past comes out. And with something like Ronan on Expert, you need Shadows of the Past to come out fairly early, maybe the top 10 guards in the counter deck or something like that. It's not really going to happen more than 1 in 5 times, maybe less. Could be even 1 in 10. I think Magneto on Expert took me 8 or 9 attempts to win. Ronan took probably 6. Venom Goblin, I got lucky and got it on the 2nd or 3rd attempt. So I think Star-Lord probably has a higher win rate than Vision, and Star-Lord would rank ahead of Vision in the S+ tier, in my opinion. But Vision is capable of defeating every scenario in the game on Expert, and that is, even if it's not a high win rate, most heroes aren't capable of doing it at all. So we're happy to find a new deck that can. And this deck's a lot of fun when you get Shadow of the Past out. It can sometimes be kind of frustrating when you're just treading water and waiting for it. I wouldn't expect this Vision deck, I would expect it to get worse in multiplayer. So if you're thinking of bringing this to a multiplayer game, just know that 3/4 of the encounter cards are going to be dealt to other players if you're in a 4-player game, and if one of them gets Shadow of the Past, well, then you're not going to be contributing much to the team. But then sometimes when you do get Shadow of the Past, like maybe 1 in 10 times or whatever, then you just completely dominate the game, and that kind of all or nothing type of thing may not be what your team is looking for, really. Though if you're playing with like just a duo's partner and struggling to get over the hump on some really difficult quest, well, then you might bring it Vision to the table and just kind of concede if Shadow of the Past gets dealt to the other player or goes to the discard pile or something. You could do that, and you might be able to down a quest that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. And another thing to note about this Vision deck, it's not thematic. It's not the way the developers intended for the game to be played, in my opinion, because I cannot imagine a scenario in which they imagined players hoping that their nemesis would come out, indeed building a strategy that only works if their nemesis comes out. I can't imagine that's what they intended, and therefore there's a very real possibility if this deck became very popular. And this is not original, by the way. This idea was from a deck on Marvel CDB. And I didn't swap out that many cards. Maybe I swapped in Reboot and maybe changed a couple of the allies, but not very many changes. And so if this deck gained widespread popularity, it's very possible it could be nerfed. It could be nerfed to, say, like maximum 3 or something like that. And if that were the case, then this deck would be garbage. Vision would be garbage, and the money that you spent on it wouldn't be getting what you paid for anymore, given that the developers errated Go for Champions relatively recently. It's not impossible that Bring It could be errated. I don't agree with that decision by the developers to errata Go for Champions. I think you have to be very, very careful with erratas in any card game because you've sold players content and they bought that content under the assumption that it was going to provide what it says that it will provide all of the time. So if they bought a card that says it has 5 power, they're expecting it's going to have 5 power forever for the developers to retroactively say no it doesn't. I don't know, it feels like buying a car or something and then having the developers or having the car manufacturer later nerf that car so it doesn't go as fast. It's like, that would be absurd with any other product. I understand it in a competitive card game where you have a PvP environment where basically players that are playing something broken are ruining the tournament scene and ruining the whole competitive environment. And so you are forced in that case to make an errata on a card in order to make the game more fun for competitive players. That I understand. In a PvE environment, I don't see really any scenario where an errata is justified because PvE, it's a player's choice what they want to play or what they don't want to play. So say I bring to your attention a broken deck and you say to yourself, no, I don't want to play it because that's not why I'm playing this game. Okay, that's totally fine. That is your choice to play a broken card or not to play it. And you are free to make that choice or not make that choice. For the developers to step in and do an errata takes the choice away from the players and takes the choice away from the players after they've already purchased content that is near unforgivable, in my view, in a PvE game. Because if players don't like Go for Champions, or if they don't like Cosmo and Doctor Strange, or if they don't like Bring It in Vision, they can simply not play it. It's a PvE game. You can do whatever you want. You can change the rules, house rules if you want. There's no competitive scene, so why does it matter? Or you can just continue to play the card as it is, as it's broken, and scale up the difficulty because the difficulty is scalable. So I can't think of any reason for an errata in this game unless it's like a quality of life thing. Like if you wanted to errata Spider-Man so that he has Web Warrior trait or something like that, that just kind of improves the quality of life for players, or if you errated Quicksilver so he has the X-Men trait or something like that, that's fine. But to nerf a card in a PvE game, no. Don't do that. If players don't want to play that card, they don't like it, they can just not play it. But if they do want to play it, it's their game. Why try to interfere? Just my opinion. I'll get off my soapbox now. So anyway, but that is something to consider if you care about erratas, is that this Bring It Vision deck is definitely not playing the game, at least in my opinion, not playing the game the way the developers designed it, and therefore it is a candidate for getting errated at some point. If there is any other candidates, I'd expect this to be near the top of the list. Anyway, that's the Aggression Vision deck, Vision Ultron Tag Team, S+ tier deck, though it is very feast or famine. Anyway, thank you for watching.